Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi, and today we are going to do a little prognostication and forecast some potential changes that may be going on in Standard and some other environments here over the next couple weeks and months. First off, we've got the B&R announcement on May 13th, so really just a few days away. We've got, of course, the normally fall, this time summer, standard rotation, and the annual B&R announcement that Wizards of the Coast has, kind of promised us will only occur then. Of course, we also have the potential for things like emergency announcements like those on May 13th. And let's not forget, we also have Modern Horizons 3 due to hit Magic and Arena alike in June. But before we get into all that, just a quick reminder that the Stronghold is producing content for you across a number of platforms. And Patreon has recently introduced an option where you can follow our content there without the need for any financial commitment. So even if you aren't ready to support the Stronghold is better positioned to support you. So you never miss out on a thing. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. Alright, so let's start things off by talking about the emergency ban announcements that are scheduled for May 13th. And by definition, these are, according to Wizards, supposed to be emergency actions, not normal adjustments to formats and things of that sort. The example that they used was specifically an opportunity to react to new cards having unexpected consequences. And to be honest, they are very much incentivized to not take these emergency actions because more often than not, it would mean criticizing brand new cards that they're still trying to sell. And they certainly would rather ban an older card that it's interacting with than to ban a new card for which they are still trying to sell packs. For these reasons, overall, I think it's very unlikely that we will see emergency ban actions in May. There are a couple new combo pieces that are having some interactions, particularly in more eternal formats like Modern, for instance. But overall, I don't think they're having a big enough impact to warrant an emergency ban. The card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction showing the most direct impact is probably Slickshot Showoff, leading its prowess friends around and not only giving a resurgence of that deck in Standard, but also a good punch in the arm for Pioneer as well. I think this card is great. I think it definitely has done great things for that mono red prowess deck, like I said, in multiple formats. But I don't think it's anywhere near ban worthy. In fact, I think it's very likely we will see a copy of this card in a blue-red Spells Matter deck come pre-rotation when they introduce the 2025 starters. All in all, to summarize, I'm not expecting any significant ban actions, but because of the tight turnaround, whatever action they do end up taking, I will not have time to release a video for, so instead it will be talked about over on my Patreon page in the free portion. So if you're unsure what to do in response to any of these, definitely check that out. The next big, disturbance in the Force, chronologically, will be Modern Horizons 3. This set, as far as Arena is concerned, is mostly about Timeless, although because of Historic's generally all-inclusive nature, don't be surprised if most, if not all of these cards are going to be legal in Historic, although it won't surprise me at all if they do make some preemptive bans into Historic. We all know that the fetch land, the allied pair fetch lands, are going to be reprinted in Modern Horizons 3. Those are already preemptively banned in Historic from the release of Khans of Tarkir. Other power level decisions like that would not be at all surprising. But overall, Modern Horizons has a history of having big impacts on multiple formats. Obviously not things like Standard or Alchemy or even Pioneer, where the cards aren't ever intended to be legal, but things like Modern, your more eternal formats like Legacy and Vintage, oftentimes, if not immediately, but eventually require some format adjustments to accommodate new power levels. Alright, so now let's talk about what I would normally refer to as fall rotation. But this year, for reasons they haven't really disclosed or explained as of the time of recording, Bloomborough, the fall set, will not be coming out on the first or second week of September, like many of us have been used to for decades, and instead it's going to hit Arena on July 30th. With last year's rotation essentially being pushed back a year, there is no shortage of cards in Standard, really at every rarity, that folks are going to be, well, pretty happy to see go, if for no other reason just to change things up. Whether that's Wandering Emperor, that makes Azorius Control so hard to play around and play against, Rafine, that just has created what is arguably the most powerful archetype in Standard, really for quite some time now. Kamano versus Kakazan in red is just ubiquitous in almost every build of mono red, really. Land bases that either make 3-color or 4-color decks way too consistent, or can just be abused outright for their ETB triggers. Wedding Announcement, I think everybody's seen enough of that. Farewell, Celestis even, maybe one of the best mana rocks we've seen in quite some time, because it allows you to draw cards and gain life and fix mana. And there's Naturalist that makes your Enchantress deck go, and even that Rakdos, a vampire guy that, why would you even consider running anything else in the 2-drop slot? There's many, many more. These are just the ones that kind of popped into my head in a very quick manner. When the decision was made to give Standard an additional year, the Wizards BNR team made the concession almost, the decision rather, to ban a few cards in order to give Standard a little bit of a refresh that people had been looking forward to. Specifically, that was Fable of the Mirror Breaker, Reckoner Bankbuster, and Invoke Despair. Some people said this was enough, other people feel like it wasn't. And there's certainly no guarantee that they would continue to make this sort of refresh banning each fall. But what if they did? Alright, so in my mind, to be in consideration for this, a card had to be in what will be future third year of Standard, and, well, really have impacted the meta environment potentially in a negative way, at least from people's perspective. Obviously, the most notorious card in future Standard that meet those criteria would be Sheldred the Apocalypse. I mean, this card was like by itself 40% of the format there for a while. I don't think anyone would hate to see its life in Standard cut short so that other cards could have an opportunity to shine. A little less notorious, but maybe equally as impactful, Knight Errant of Eos really gives a solid punch to the recent Boros Convoke, Boros Tokens decks. This is really the hinge-pin card behind its power. So if they did want to disable that deck, this would be the choice for it. However, that having been said, I think that a lot of people view this deck as right now keeping mono red in check, and that may be viewed as a more of a positive and take it out of the conversation for bans. Venerated Rot Priest is one of those poison enabler combo cards that has been in at least 5 or 6 different meta-relevant decks there for a while, not to mention another 3 or 4 budget-worthy decks. It's really been a staple since it was first printed. And again, I think a lot of people would be very happy to no longer see it on the other side of the table. And in that same category, Hadi Jin has enabled a mono blue tempo / mono blue control deck since it was initially printed. People have backed off, particularly the mono blue tempo here recently, because of Cavern of Souls making creatures uncounterable. However, I think honestly that's a bit of an overcorrection. So I think there is a good conversational case at the very least that Hadi Jin might be in the conversation for a third year freshen up of standard banning. Let me know, what do you think? Comment down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think, not only about these choices, but anything you feel like I may have overlooked. And of course, don't forget, Alchemy has and likely always will remain on a 3-year rotation. So it is expected to lose Dominaria United, Brothers of War, Phyrexia All Will Be One, March of the Machine, and of course, the ever popular Lord of the Rings. And before we go, I want to take just a moment to thank my totally awesome patrons for supporting me and allowing me to apply my passion into a community. And of course, before we go, I've got some suggestions for your next step.